shell. It looks like your microphone's muted, so I can't actually hear you if you're talking.
Somebody.
Hello?
Like that, trying to be. No. You bro.
Does anyone have any questions right now?
What happened?
That's loud.
Hi guys, can you review number 9 from the study guide?
What about the study guide?
Number 9 from the study guide.
Alright, let me pull it up real fast. Okay. Alright. So number 9 shows the value of the what is the value of the number after the following statements for each part assume the preceding parts have already been executed. So you have amazing class AC1 equals new amazing class 3. So you have amazing class. So AC1. One thing to notice that this variable is static, and since that variable is static, it's gonna even though you're gonna create two different instances of amazing class objects, it's gonna use the same integers value. So the same variable is gonna be for that one. So you would do new amazing class with and use the constructor with int 3. So this a would be a 3. So you're saying number, which is up here, would equal 3 for the first one, and the second one would now make a new one where this is 7, and it would copy 7 into this, but since it's static, you would have only one variable. They would both share the number. So int number would be shared between both of them. So when you do a1 dot twice, a1 is 7. So a1 dot twice is 14. So it takes the number, which is stored up here, which is going to be 7, twice, and then, so that's going to be 14, and then returns this number. And then you're going to do number equals, and since it changes what this number is, it actually puts 14, it returns 14, and it also changes this to 14. So when you do a2 dot twice, it should be 28, because it does the same thing to number and then stores number up there. And when you're returning, so it says what is the value of number after each of the following. So the number would be 3, 7, 14, and 28. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
You're welcome. And let me just verify the solution. It's always good to, yeah, 3, 7, 14, 28. So just remember that static means that they share the same memory location for that int number. Question there from the study guide. Did you post also on YouTube?
Yeah, I asked it that. Yeah.
That's fine, that's fine.
Sorry.
Anyone else have any questions specifically you want to go over? Or?
Can you explain the difference between selection sort and insertion sort?
Okay, selection, insertion. I saw that in the discussion board. Let me. Do you know offhand where she has a copy of each one, just so I can use for reference?
I was looking at number 13 on the study guide.
Okay. So 13. And where she has a copy of each one, just so I can use for reference. And then I see the asking for question 16 also. So I'll get there. Okay, so you said 15?
I said
Oh, 13.
So it swaps. Insert and sort is basically you have one.
Where'd it go? So for selection sort.
okay. Well, actually, I get selection sort, but how is selection sort different from insertion?
Do you have the part where she actually has the code written down? Because she shared that in Blackboard. It should be under course documents. I have to see what it's calling for. This one. Yeah, let me find in class. When did she do that? Because she had it written down, the code in the slide, right?
For
The sorts, both of the sorting.
oh well, she did have a PowerPoint on that.
Searching sort.
Yeah, searching sorting. For
The sorts, both of the sorting.
oh well, she did have a
Selection sort, insertion. This approach to selection sort selects a value and puts it in the final place in the list. Find the smallest value in the list, switch it with the value. Swapping. And insertion. Consider the first item to be sorted. a sorted sublist of one item. Shifting it. And then insert the third item into the sorted sublist of two items. Shifting them is necessary. So insert 9. Okay, so for this one, okay, so you said you understand selection?
Yeah.
Okay, so for insertion sort, it's, you could almost think, okay, so say you're given this array with original 3, 9, 6, 1, and 2,
Right.
and so you go to insert, so you assume the first one's in the correct spot.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you'll end up switching when you insert the next element, so it doesn't matter. So insertion, you just pretty much put it, you would pretty much put the 9 at the beginning of the list, whether it goes in the front or the back. So so right now you're just looking at the first element, so you look at here, so you're inserting the 9, and it's greater than 3, so you just put it to there.
How are you inserting it though if it's already in the original thing?
So for arrays, it's a little more resource heavy to do it. So you'd pretty much have to write something that copies. So you have whenever you had to have 3 different not nodes, but 3 different. You have to have like a temp integer, and so basically you would copy whatever's in this spot to be in this spot, whatever's in the temp, whatever's here to be in the temp, whatever's here to be into that spot, and then whatever needs to actually go there to go there. She had that in, right, was it here? This number position -1. So, okay, you can do it like this. Okay, this has 2 loops. So, in the code she gives you for insertion, you have a for loop that goes through the numbers, and then every time you go to insert, you insert and then move these based on, you shift them over based on whatever's bigger. For the ones that you've done already, for the elements that you've done. So basically, you go. Right now, you only have 1 element. Here, you'd have 2 elements, and then so you just put the 9 in. You put the 9 automatically there. You would here you'd put the 6 here, and by happenstance, it was correct. But you would just move. You basically move to, like, okay, so you basically move to the gap in between. So you move here, you look there, it's not bigger.
Incrementing?
Yeah. So you either put it here, and then, because look at the second while loop, because you have a for loop that goes through each indice, and this one starts at the current position. So, okay, so here we would look at 3, we just put 3 automatically in. The first one you automatically just put in, because you don't have to start anything. For the second one, you say, hey, is 9 greater than 3? Yes, so it's going to go on the right side of 3.
Oh, okay, I think I see now.
And so this one, is it greater than 3?
You're going
Yes.
in order of...
Pretty much. So basically, if you had 11, if this 6 wasn't 6, if it was 11, and so you would have pretty much these numbers, you would go, hey, is 11 greater than 3? No. If
Oh, okay.
it would go, is it greater than 9? Yes, so it would go on the right side of it. But you're only doing it to the current position though. So you'd only, like, you wouldn't go past, like, this is theoretically as far as you would try to sort it.
Mm-hmm.
On this one. On the next one, you'd hit the next spot. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. How arrays can be used in methods. Code examples for sorts are in. Oh, thank you for Jeremy, for the place for more examples for the code. Can you review multidimensional arrays and how the arrays can be used in methods? Arrays can be used pretty much the same way in methods or in regular, like the main method, and pretty much anywhere in code. You use them pretty much the same way. If they're multidimensional arrays, I'll actually show a coding example. But you have to have a set of brackets for each dimension. So right now you've only seen like 1 and 2 dimension arrays, but you can have 3 or 4 or however many you need to do your code. It just gets a little confusing after 2. Let us do so let's see. I'm just going to use this from the homework assignment, if that's okay. So basically, especially in a class, you just define it here. You don't instantiate it here. So you define it by doing private. In this case, you want to keep your data encapsulated. The variable name. Let me see if I can zoom in actually. So the variable name right here, and then or the class name. Sorry, the class name, or if it was an array of integers, it would be private int x. So either the type, so it's the class type, or the actual primitive data type, and then the variable name, and then however many dimensions it is. And remember, the first one is always row, and the second one is always columns. So in here you have seeding equals, so here this is the same variable name, and this is in the constructor. So the correct way is always to declare the data type outside of the constructor, so declare it in the class. Declare it in the class, and you have to instantiate it all inside of a constructor. And so the correct way to do this is call the variable name equals new employee, and then whatever value for the row and for the column number. So if you wanted to do x at the same time and it was something else, you could say it's either the same, or say you just wanted a 5 by 5 array. So this would do something that would be, oops, my bad. X equals okay. So x equals new int and 5 by 5. So now you have an array, and so for this one, again, in order to access these and to access every single element, you would need to use some sort of loop. For loops are the most convenient to use. And you don't actually need this. Well, actually in this case, you don't actually need this, but for me it just makes more sense and it's easier to understand. And you just go I until either the actual number up here, or you can actually use the length of the array, so seeding.length. And then for this one, instead of using this, you could do seeding. You could do seeding, and then do whatever I, or even 0, either one, doesn't matter, dot length, and that would be the equivalent of the same thing. So basically, you have to actually check the second dimension of the array. So you're basically finding the length of the second dimension. Whereas if you just had seeding.length without the I, it would only be checking the length of the first dimension. And then you access it by I and j, and then equal to whatever. So if we were using the X array, it'd be the same thing, except for you would have inside of here X of I and j. And then equals, say you just wanted to equal 0 or something, or 11 for some reason. Or you can make it count or do whatever you wanted to do, but this is how you would set each indice, and that's because I use 5 and 5 here. If these numbers are not 5 and 5, you're gonna, if they're larger than 5, there's not gonna be a problem. But if they're lower, well, no, there will be a problem, sorry. If they're lower than 5, you're not gonna have a problem. If they're larger than 5, there's gonna be a problem because you're gonna get array out of bounds errors. Let's see how many people can actually join on Hangouts. Does that answer the question for arrays? Yeah, I can look at most of assignments. 8. You can barely see the code. I made the code bigger. Is that better for the code? And I can try to make it better. Let's see. I think in order to do it, I have to actually leave the string. Yeah. Whoever was having problems seeing the code, can you still join it? Or still see it, I mean? Or are you having issues? And I know a lot of people are joining through Hangouts, but Hangouts I think has a limit on how many people can have in a live call, so it's probably gonna start stopping people from going. But yeah, that's multidimensional arrays. I don't know if there's anything else you need for arrays. Does anyone have any other questions?
Can you go over question 15?
15?
Yes.
Question 15. Use a sorted list and use a binary search to look for Mike in the list. Show all the names that are going to be compared with Pat before it finds it. So, for binary search, and we're looking for Mike. So what it's going to do is you start at 0 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Let me see if I can copy this into.
I believe there was a typo. Professor Bobby said that it's supposed to say Pat, not Mike.
But from Matt, I'm going to show all the names that are going to be compared with Pat before it finds it. Okay, so well, either way, they're either supposed to be both Pat or they're supposed to be both Mike.
Oh, okay.
Because it's saying use the sorted list to look for this, and then show all the names that are going to be compared with Pat before it finds it. So if this is Mike and this is Mike, it works, or if it's Pat and Pat, it works. So you could do it for either of them as long as they're. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to have Mike and then Pat. So if we do it, so she said it should be Pat, or it should be Mike. Okay, it should be Pat. So if you're looking for Pat, so what you're gonna do again? Let me try to. Let me try to go here. Yeah, that's messy. Let's do this. Okay. No, it didn't copy. Just because it will allow me to actually. No, it didn't do it. Okay. I guess I won't do that then. So I was going to do it so I could actually write on the page, but I know she went over it in class, so hopefully I can explain it without going into too much detail. Okay, so basically you would do how many arrays or how many elements are in the array, and it's 3, 6, 7, right? So it's going to be 0 to 6. So you're going to have 0 plus 6 divided by 2, because that's how you start binary search. So you get 3. So what you do is you look at 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So Elise is the third element. So you look at Elise, and you compare it to Pat. So is P greater than or less than E? P is greater than, so you look on the right side of the list. So this becomes your new starting. So you're going to have 3 plus 6 is 9, divided by 2 is 4.5, which makes it to, with integer division, should be 5. So then you look at 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it looks at Pat. And so then it is Pat, so it finds it. So that is, which one was that? Sorry. 15. Okay. Wait, that's not right. Oh, there's. Okay. So yeah, so your last ends up being 5, or your 5 and 6. Oh, it looks like they were actually looking for Mike. That's confusing because it says that they were looking for Mike, so that is confusing. 4, 5, 0, 6, 4, 5. So you go 4 and 5. 3, 5, and then check 4. Yeah. Does that make sense, or?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
Now.
Yeah, that is kind of confusing how that, like having Mike and Pat in it.
Yeah, initially it was confusing, but now it makes a little more sense.
Okay, so basically you want to take the last element, or how you start with 0, and so you have a first, and then you have a last, and then you divide it to get your middle, and that's what you test. You test your middle index that you get from the division between 0 and 6, 0 plus 6, so 3. So you take your middle division, which ends up being 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So the fourth element, but index 3 is Elise. So you look at this and compare this with whatever you're looking for. So Mike or Pat, whatever it is. And then based on that, so basically if you were looking for, so for the second one, so in the second one you're looking for Kathy. So you still do the same 0 plus 6 on top, and then you're looking for Kathy, so you're looking for C. So C is less than this. So instead of you increasing what your first is, you're increasing what your last is. Or decreasing what your last is. So you're going to go, you're moving from here, so you're checking from Aaron to Elise, and then you're going to 0, 1, 2, 3, 0 and 3, divided by 2, or divided by 2 is 2. So you go 2. Why is there, I don't understand her answer here, but oh, because you don't find it, so you have to check again. That's why. Okay, yeah. So because what you're looking for is not actually there. So you're looking. So you look here, and then you go. Your new bounds would be here to here, and then you check here. This bound, or you'd go again, try to do binary division again, or binary search again, but you look here and here, and there's nothing in between there, so it can't be anything else there. So since there's nothing in between Betsy and Doug, you would return. It's not on the list, so yeah. Any other questions? For the person who's still trying to be accepted in Hangouts, sometimes there's a limit on Hangouts, so I don't know how many people allow at one time. You can type your questions there, and I see them. It just takes me a little to get to them. No specific questions right now.
Can you maybe go over the logic of number 16?
16?
Yeah.
Okay. Write class little statistician to maintain two descriptive statistics, count and average. Write method add to add numbers to the collection. Write method count and average to return the collect. Okay, so you're gonna have 1, 2, 3. 2 adds to maintain two descriptive statistics, count and average. Okay, so let me just verify that this is, yeah, okay. So I'm just going to take this just because it's easier to start with, and then actually just instead of just typing it all for time's sake, I'm just going to kind of do it and explain it as I go, if that's okay. Let's see. Yeah, again, for anyone who's still trying to connect through Hangouts, Hangouts has a max on how many people it can have video streaming at one time, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know how to fix it. That's why I'm streaming through YouTube, even though it's not as good. Okay. I'll fix it later. What's it called? Oops. Should have been hello. Alright. And then let's sorry about this. Is trying to make it so I can see. Okay. Okay, hopefully the code is readable. Okay, so you're calling this little statistician, and you have, it says that you need two variables, count and average. So you have my count and my data, which is going to be the average, I'm assuming, although I would have named it average. But it has two statistics. You want to write a method to add numbers to the collection. Count and average. Count average. Okay. Okay, so double just holds all of the numbers. So this is all the numbers. And then here's your constructor for it. You're setting this to 0, and you're setting this to an array with 5 numbers in it as a default constructor. And because the data is double, all the primitive data types, you don't have to set every single array element to like 0.0. It's automatically set at 0.0 for the primitive data types. So then you have the constructor with one double passed in. And my data length is greater than my count. Do this. Oh no, sorry, this is void. Sorry, I apologize. This is not another constructor. This is just void, and your add method. So the two methods you have are add, to add numbers to the collection. So we have 0 numbers here, so 5 0.0s, and in here we have if this is greater than, so if the length, which is 5, is greater than my count, which is however many variables you currently have in the array, then you're going to switch the last element to equal the new number, or switch whatever the current element is to equal new number, and then you increase the count. So
if I set up a constant instance variable at the top, like for instance, private final int max equals 5, and pass that into the array length when you're setting up the constructor, does that work too, or should you always put in 5 there?
In this case, if you're going to do something like that, you'd probably want the final 5 up here, equal top, and then have that here. Since this is more of a demo thing, this is fine.
But it would work on the test if something like that came up.
Yeah, if you had it just up here, so private, final, and then like just do 5, or you could have it array L, array length, or like that, equals 5.
Well, you have to have your type there too, right? And
yeah, you do. Yeah. Sorry. That's why I didn't like it. And then, so yeah, you could do that, and then you could do this. This. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
And again, it depends on what you're going to use it for. The good thing about final variables, if you use this more than once, it's very, very helpful to have. In this case, you can just as easily go from here to whatever the array dot length is. So you could do my data dot length and find the same information. So it's not always necessary, but it would do the same thing. So for the rest of this, basically, so every time I add an element, successfully add an element to this, you increase the count, so that up here your count increases, so you always know where you're adding in the array. There's other ways to do this, but this is a pretty easy way to do it. Okay, I just commented those out because you don't really need those like that. All you pretty much want to say is that you could not add the new number and what the new number is, and then also not. You want to make sure you don't increase my count. For the next method, it says write method to count and average to return the correct values. So count. Oops. Okay. So count and average. So count, you already know the current count because it's one of the data you're tracking. So you just do return my count. And a lot of times you'll actually have this as like, because she didn't specify that, this is fine. But you could also have get count. That's usually how you would write that. And then you just return my count. So for average, basically you'd have to check the numbers inside the array. You want every single number. Basically you just want to add them. So you have one for loop, you only need one, and it goes from 0 to my count, which is the current number of elements you have in your array. So if you had only a partially filled array, so 0, 1, 2, so 3 elements in there, and you had 4 and 5, and you didn't have my count there, and you had like the end of the array, you'd be adding 2 extra zeros, which wouldn't hurt your addition. But you're accessing extra parts of the array that might have something in it if you didn't do things correctly. And in Java, it's not as big a deal, but in C, you have to really worry about your boundaries for arrays, because sometimes it stores data in arrays that you don't intend it to be there. So again, like if you had like my data dot length, in this case it would theoretically work. 0, 0, yeah, it would work, but the more correct way would be to do it like that. And then you do sum plus equals, or equals sum plus my data dot current, or with the indices of j, so the current element plus equals, so sum equals sum plus the current element in the array, and then this goes until you reach my count, and then you just return the sum, which is all the elements added up divided by my count, and then my string is, or toString is pretty easy. You just and toString changes a lot depending on what you're actually trying to do, but again, you want to go to my count, minus 1. Oh, because you're doing less than. No, that's still weird. I don't know why this is like this. 0, 1, 2, 3. I don't know why this is minus 1. My data minus 1. I don't know why this is minus 1. I'll have to look into that. I'll post on Blackboard, on a discussion board, if I figure out that actually shouldn't be like that. But basically you just go through the elements of the array, the valid elements, and print. So you have a string called result, and just return that string. So basically you just build your string as you go, and then print out, and then just return my data with that. Oh, that's why. Oh, that's a weird way to do it. Okay, so the reason it does the minus 1 is because it wants the, no, that doesn't make sense either. Never mind. I'll post something on discussion board when I figure that out.
Well, when you look at the output, it doesn't even display the array. It just displays the average and the count. So we wouldn't even need that for loop in there.
So the toString, what does it ask for in the toString?
toString only outputs the average and the count, apparently.
Okay, well then the average you could just run call average, so this dot average. So result equals, you could have something like result equals this dot average, and then it would calculate its own average, and then you could do, why is it not like that? Oh, because I didn't import the stupid, I didn't do the import statements. It doesn't like me doing string things because I didn't import. Oh no, it didn't do it because I didn't do this as a string. There you go. Okay, sorry. So you could do that, and then you said string and what? And count. So then you could just have the for loop to do the. Oh no, you don't even need that. You just need the count. So you already know what the count is. So you could just do that. Plus, and then basically you just format it however you want it for the toString. Yeah, I don't know why she has all this. Does that make sense?
When I did the toString, I just did system out print line in quotations average colon space quotation plus average open parentheses close parentheses. Does it have to have this dot average in the print statement?
Did you just had average in there?
Yeah, because I did the same thing in assignment 7. I didn't use this dot average.
I think it's fine. It's something for me. Anytime I use variables that are instance variables or functions that are part of this or part of the class, I use this. So it's a programmer thing and a teacher thing. So some teachers are like, oh, you never use this. Some teachers are like, you always use this if you can. And so I just kind of got used to using it wherever you can. But it should be fine without it. Any other questions about this one? Okay. Any other questions?
I have a quick question about public static void main string args.
Okay.
The answer was I just had trouble understanding what string args is. I understand it's an array of strings passed to the main.
Correct.
But what are the arrays? Like if we do that and we write a program that does something simple like calculating an average,
Yeah.
what is the array that's being used?
Okay, so basically I don't know if I can do it in this. Let me see. IntelliJ is very good for a lot of things, but I don't know if I can actually do a console in here. Or if I can, I don't know how to do a console in here. Let's go to CMD. Okay. So whenever you call, I know that's probably not going to be able to Java compiler. Alright, I don't have my variable set up to do that. I can explain it, but I can't demo it to you. Basically, whenever you do, there's multiple ways to call Java programs. Usually, what they do, like what TextPad does, what Eclipse does, is they send basically like a DOS command. So kind of like the CMD thing, kind of like this. And they pretty much do like they'll do like whatever the Java compiler, and then the actual file that you're running. So say it's like hello world or hello dot Java, and then basically everything after that. If you do this, theoretically your file should compile or whatever. When anything after that, so if you did like 1H and 13 for whatever reason, say that's relevant or information that's relevant to this specific file. So what Java does, it takes 1, h, and 13 and saves that in that string's argument. So it's an array with 3 elements, in this case 1, h, and 13. And so in your program, wherever you have the main method, so let's look at the main method. So here, so I could do, I have an array of strings that's called args, and again you can name that whatever you want, but you could do args, and I could do like this, 0, and so basically the first word or thing delimited by a space from there will be here. So I could do like the system dot out dot println, or even dot parent or whatever, and print that, and so basically it would print whatever that is, and that's a string value. So in the example that I did, which I closed again, in that example, so whatever's passed in there after will be the first argument, and so you can use that, and typically they're used for file names. So I can run the command line for Java and basically tell it, hey, I want to have the first element is the file that I want to pull information from. The second element is the file name of where I want to put the new, or what I want to store stuff, and the third one is whatever I want it to be. So basically it's another way of passing information, pretty much. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
I have a question back from assignment 7.
Okay.
For part 1, the written portion, I was just wondering if you could kind of go over that.
I didn't actually read that one, but I can look at it real quick.
Okay.
Assignments. Yeah, I'm not a grader, so I didn't actually do that part, and no one asked questions to me, at least, about that one. So 7, written 1. Consider the following array: 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11.
I just have kind of trouble following the logic of for loops with arrays, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't with that.
So like, do you want to just do like A and B or something like that, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you have a for loop, and you already have this array, and when you define the arrays like this, you already you don't have to do like int 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to have int 5 because these automatically store the values, and you don't have to worry about storing them because it's a shortcut in Java for arrays. So in here, to access the array, you almost always use a for loop. So for the one she gave, if you start at 1, usually to access arrays you start at 0, so starting at 1 you're going to start at 0, 1. So you're going to start here. Well, I is less than 6. 0.
So 1 is referring to the index?
I in this case is referring to the index.
Okay.
And that's why it changes. So the index starts at 0. So the first element is 0, so the second element is 1. So in this case, you're going to access this part of the array first. And then you're going to do, well, I is less than 6, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's fine, sorry. I had a counting issue in my head. But that's fine, because there's 6 elements, so as long as it's not equals, it's not going to go out of bounds. If it's equal to 6 and there's 6 elements in the array, then it's going to array out of bounds, but you don't have to worry about that for the array. You're going to go, so now you know, so it's starting here, and let's go A of I. What's A of I? A of I is 3 in this case, right?
Yeah.
So 3 equals, or whatever's stored here, sorry, is I minus 1, which is I minus 1, so it's 2,
Okay.
because you're accessing this element. So anytime
Oh, then you,
any-
okay.
th-
Push
you're
that out.
that's always the element. So you're saying that whatever element is stored here is going to be put into position A of I, which is this position. So
Okay.
you're gonna put the 2 is gonna stay the same, but you're gonna put the 2 into the 3 spot. You're gonna copy it in there, so it's gonna be 2, 2, 5, 7, 9, 11 after the first pass, and then you're gonna go to the next. Since I is still less than, or since I was less than 6, you're gonna do I plus plus. So now it's gonna be 2. So you're gonna start at this position. So I of this position is going to equal I minus 1. So I minus 1, which was, we made it into 2. So now it's going to be 2. So it's going to be 2, 2, 2. And then it's going to be 2, 2, 2 all the way through. Does that make sense?
Why would they all be 2 though? I mean, I get the first pass would be 2.
Okay, so the second pass, you're moving your I equals 1, 2. So I equals 2, which is this position, the position
Right.
where the 5's in. The array currently right now is 2, 2, 5.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go here, we're going to do A of I minus 1. So A of I currently is here, I minus 1, so whatever's in this position, which isn't really a 3, it's a 2. Because
Yeah.
we copied over, so it's 2, 2. We're going to put whatever's here, we're going to put it into this spot. So we're going to copy it, so it's going to be 2, 2, 2.
Okay.
So remember, this is always accessing what is at that part of the array. So A minus 1, so it's always going to look left, whatever's to the left, it's going to copy it to the current value.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to try B real quick?
Okay.
Okay, so B, you're going to start I equals 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're looking at this spot. Well, while I is greater than 0, and then you're going to do I minus minus. So A of I, so whatever is in the last spot, is going to equal I minus 1. So whatever's in A of I minus 1. So what's in A minus 1? A I minus 1. So A of I minus 1 is 9. So we're going to copy whatever's in this into whatever A of I is, which is currently this. So it's going to put a 9 here. So,
Okay.
so you're going to have 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 9. So now you're going to do I minus minus. So I is now 4. So I of 4 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're looking at this spot. Is it still less than, or still greater than 0? Yes. You're going to do A of I, so whatever this is in this spot is going to equal A of I minus 1. So A of I minus 1 is 7. So 7 gets copied to here. So it pretty much moves whatever's in this element over. So it's going to be this element over, this element over. So it's going to be, is it going to touch the 2? Well, it's greater than 0. So when it's 1, it's going to look at here. Yeah, so basically it's going to go 2, 3, 5, 7, 9 is going to be what your final output is.
Okay.
And again, for arrays, the best advice I can give is to write out what your current I is. So you would do, like, for this, your I would be 5. Write what A of I is, because so A of I is currently 11. So, and that way, every time you do something with the for loop, copy that change or that value as you go.
Okay.
have any other questions?
Looking at 12D on the review,
12.
D.
Unless I'm reading this wrong, I only see a 12. I don't see it.
It's got little sub questions.
Like circle. Unless I'm looking at the wrong thing, I'm saying it's his
Oh.
valid method headings. Is that one?
Keep going up.
Oh, okay. Wow.
There you go.
Why is there two 12s? Anyway, okay, my bad. So 12D. So
Yeah.
just right code the shift, each number left, or each number one place to the right. There'll be 2 copies of the first element when you're done with this.
So I see that the loop is starting from the back and working its way up. Since it starts at length -2.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could start from the front and then work your way to the back, and it does the same thing. Or does it have to
let me
start
think.
from the back?
So shift each number right one place to the right. So if you have an array, let me think really fast. So say we have an array. I'm not going to use this part anyway. So if we have 0, 12, 15, 20. So we want to shift every element to the right one, correct?
Right.
And you want to do 0 to the right. No, you could do you could start at the beginning.
Okay. Because I had for int I equals 1, I is less than x dot length, I plus plus, and then x sub I. Oh, you're gonna write it.
Well, I'm gonna try. I can't actually run this because I don't. There's too many things that are broken.
Okay. Okay.
Start at you start.
I started at 1 because it's given that the first one is
It's
gonna
gonna be
stay the
repeated.
same.
Yeah,
There's no point even visiting that one.
yeah. That's fine. Yeah.
Um,
And then
I is less than x dot length, and then I plus plus. And then inside the body is x sub I equals x sub I minus 1.
x minus.
X sub I
Okay.
equals x sub I minus 1.
So this one equals. No, you want it minus 1. Oh wait, hold on.
Because it's gonna
Oh,
start at
Yeah,
index.
you could do it that way too. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool.
You could have started at 0 as well and just done it the opposite way. Done x of I, or x of I plus 1 equals x of I. Yeah. Yeah, there's multiple ways you could have done this.
Okay. I was wondering if it was only like one way.
No. And that's the thing about programming and especially like loops. Like when you get into recursion, there's other ways to do things too. But yeah, that's fine. That would work too.
Can you go over the multiple ways of instantiating a new string? Because when you do I know this, like, for example, int array x equals new int, and then, like, in brackets 10, but, like, when you want to give all the elements of that array, you do new int and then curly braces and then all the elements and then...
Can you give me an example? Like... Because you're trying to do all elements of an array, right? Or
If you're trying to add all the, if you know what the elements are going to be, you can use curly braces, right?
so okay, so this is so this is one way to make an array, right?
Yep.
curly braces. That's if you know at runtime, which honestly you, for some things you will know at runtime, or before runtime. Another way is you can actually do like X. Are you talking about like actually putting variables inside, or like elements inside the array, or actually just declaring the array?
Just declaring the array.
Because you can just declare the int like this and call it y, and that is fine for declaring. For putting values, you can do, if you do this, then you have to use the y equals new, and then come on, int, and then however many elements, and again this can be a variable as long as the variable is set at runtime, which you shouldn't have to worry about. So yeah, so say it's 5, semicolon, and then you can do, let's do y, and then you can actually add each element individually like this. So y of 0 equals like 25 or 26, whatever, and then y 2. For some reason we don't want to put something in 1, I don't know why. And then the other way to add stuff is with a for loop. So for, and then just do int I equals 0, I less than, let's do y dot length, and I plus plus. And then you just do curlies, and then just do y of I equals something, whatever you want. You could do like a counter plus something, plus 1 or whatever, assuming you had. This would be the other way to do it. And they all pretty much do the same thing, it's just this way is one line of code.
Right, it's a lot simpler.
Yeah.
And with 2D arrays, it's the same thing. Except for like that first option, when you're doing the first, or int bracket x equals curly braces. When you're doing a 2D array, you just group them by rows, or is it columns?
So you'd have something like this, and then this would have to be that. Tell you that's a 2D array, and say I'm going to do something with like xy coordinates or something. So it's an array of xy coordinates. So this would be the same thing as doing with, so it's going to be, although I don't know why you'd want to do an array like that one.
But that is, the first one is, I'm sorry, both, those are groups of rows, right? So you have,
So this is going to be one, so okay, so you always start, this is your row, this is your column. So the outer is your rows. So this is going to be one row, a row 1 with 2 columns in it, 0 and 12. Row 2 with 15 and 20 in it. And then let's call it 22 and, I don't know, 28. So this would be like 0, 20. So this like if you printed how you normally print things, it would be 0, 12, stupid spacing, 15, 20, 22, 28. So this is the first row values, second row values, third row values. And these are the column values. So this would be the equivalent of 3 rows, 2 columns, and then I don't know why I put that there. Y equals new int 3, 2. And then you could set, there's a couple ways you could access it, but you'd have to use 2 for loops, or you could literally, since it's only 6 values, you could do like 0, 0 equals 0, y of 0, 1 equals 12, y of 1, 1 equals 20.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay. Let's see what this says really fast. I am reading the numbers over here, or the posts over here. It's just it's updating after it runs. For walk on it, Colette. The J++, if it's in a for loop, it does update after it runs. Yes. If it's inside the code, it depends. Not inside the for loop declaration, then it depends on where it's at. It just runs wherever it's actually in the code for the J++. This indicates.
I think Nicholas has a good question for those who joined a little bit later.
Okay. Really quick, I want to, if Jeremy's on, can you?
I am Jeremy.
Oh, what is this, Jeremy Matthias?
Oh yeah, I was just replying to somebody. They said
Okay.
you can do either greater than or less than or equal to, -1, or less than, and it's the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And that's again the condition things. There's a lot of different ways to write an equivalent statement in Java and programming language in general. The difference on 14a and b. 14a and b. Um, 14. Oh, I'm assuming this is 14 then, not 15.
Yeah, that's 14.
Okay, it says 15 on mine, but so you want to know the difference between 14 and 15, or 14 and sorry, what was that? What was the other question? Or the rest of the question? A or just A and B? No, it's swapping.
When you explained it in class, they pretty much seemed like very similar. The two different sorts.
Well, this isn't sorting. This is already using a sorted list. I don't think I have the right part.
Oh, then it's that one.
You talking about this part? Okay. So selection sort. Selection sort runs on which indice it is, and let me pull up the slide that has the information on it because it's easier to go from that. So this is selection sort. This position to be filled. Okay, so selection sort goes like this. So it starts on position 0, and move. And so for this one, this isn't a pass, so it examines the first element of the array, and it's ignoring. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. It's ignoring the rest of the array for now, and it just sorts it with itself. So the second one, it says, it goes, hey, am I smaller than the next element? And because it's doing 2, because it goes from 0 to here, so it looks at this element, because it already says, hey, I think I'm in the right place because I'm the smallest of what I know. So it goes to here, it says, hey, am I smaller than 1? No, so I'm going to go here. It switches with whatever's in the next spot. And then again, so it says, or sorry, I apologize. It goes and finds the next biggest. Sorry, I apologize. I confused myself. Okay, so basically it goes here, it looks here, says, hey, I'm going to look for the smallest number. It finds the smallest number and puts it in the first spot, because that's on the first indice, on the first pass. So the next one, it looks here, it looks with this array that it has now, and when it does this, it switches whatever is currently here with whatever it found to be the smallest number. So it looks at the whole entire array. So this one, so when it has the 1, it says, hey, I've already found my 1, so I'm going to go to the next spot. The next spot is here. Is 9 the smallest element? No. What's the smallest element? So it looks, is 9 smaller than this? No. Is 9 smaller than this? No. Is 9 is 9 the smallest? No. Is this the smallest? Is this the smallest? And it reached here, and your memory hold on to whatever the smallest element is, and then its current spot is 1 of the, so it's a second element, but it's the indice is 1, so it says, so since this is smallest, I'm going to switch the 2 and the 9. And then it goes through again, says, hey, I have this, or I have these values. I know my 1 and 2 are the smallest values. What's the next smallest? Is it 6? No. Is it 3? No. Or yes, possibly. Is it 9? No. So my 3 is yes, so it's going to switch 6 and 3. Because this was the current where I was looking from. Because again, these two are already figured out, so it doesn't even look there anymore. And then so it does that. So do you understand selection sort? I'm going to take that as a tentative yes. Now for insertion sort, is what it does is it starts here again, but instead of like looking at the whole array, it takes the array elements one by one and puts them into the array. So in this you have a for loop that goes through the array, and it puts them and then you have a second loop in here which starts from the current position, which is up here, which is the index right here, so wherever the current number is, or the current position or index, in this case it's the same, and then it goes until it reaches the end of the list, or it tells it as long as it's greater than 0, and the number position minus 1 is greater than the key, which the key is whatever you're looking for. No, not whatever you're looking for, whatever the current index is that you're searching from. So insertion sort okay, so you have this originally, and then you take the 3, because that's the first element on the array, and you put it in the 0 spot, because that's what you do, because that's the only spot you have. It's the smallest element that you know so far. So then you go to the next part, so you're inserting the next number, which is 9. So you insert the 9 and you say, is 9 greater than 3? Yes, and you move it to the right. And then so that's all you look at for this pass. And for the next pass, now you look at, this is your current array. the next pass you look at the 6, and you say, hey, is the 6 greater than the 3? Yes. So is the 6 greater than 9? No, it's less than 9, so you put it here, and then you move the 9 over. So you insert the 9 into here, whereas up here, you're searching through the array to find the smallest element, so you look through the whole entire array, and then whatever you find, you switch them. For selection. For insert, you insert or add the next element into the correct position.
In selection, does it actually look through the whole thing regardless? Like, let's say there's two numbers that are the same, and it just finds the first one, or does it actually look through the entire array list?
It would find the first one. It would look through the whole array, because in selection, it doesn't know. So when it's looking at this with this array, it says, hey, you have something called let's see if I can see the pseudocode. Selection. Okay, so for selection sort, you should have a min, yeah. So you have your min and you have your temp, which your temp's not important for this. You have your min, and it defaults to be the first value starting out. So right now your min is 3, and then it goes to the next element of the array and says pretty much, is this element less than my current min? If it's not less than, I move to the next element. If it's not less than, I move to the next element. It is less than, so my new min equals 1, and then now I'm looking, is my current min less than this? As long as, basically, it will run through the rest of the array. The only time it, in this pass, it doesn't actually look at the first element of the array, it just looks the rest of the array. And same thing, so it already, on this pass right here, it already has 1 and 2 set, so it doesn't actually look at these two again. It already knows that it's sorted, so it has index equals 0. The second one, scan equals index plus 1. Maybe that's not an optimized thing. Maybe that might be an optimization thing. So the only way that you want it is if you optimized your code to not check these values. It looks like this one doesn't have that optimization in there, but usually you would put that in there. But yes, you do look in the whole entire array, because you always say, hey, is my lowest one my next lowest, because you don't want 1. If there was another 1 in there, you would end up putting a 1 as the second value, because you'd find it here, because you would have moved, like if this 6 was a 1, you would have moved this 1 as your min and switched it here, and then if this 6 was still a 1, you would still have a 1 here and a 3 there, and then you'd switch the 1 and the 9. But how it is right now is you would have to go through and find, basically you're just trying to find the current min after the index, or after the whatever the pass you're on. So the next current min starts at 9. Is 9 smaller? No, yes. Or so it would be yes, so 6 would be the current min, then 3 would be the current min, then 2 would be the current min, and you're at the end of the array, so then you'd swap 9 and 2. Does that make sense?
Cool, yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Probably going to be on for like 20 more minutes, so. Alright, let me check YouTube really fast. Could you do... Okay.
Will we have to parse a string on the test, or not?
I haven't actually seen the test. What do you mean parse the string though?
Extract value. Let's say they give us, say we have a string that has a bunch of elements in it, or a bunch of numbers in it, and you want to put these numbers into an integer array. So we'd have to parse the string, right?
Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to be something that's on the test because I didn't really see it on the guidelines.
I'm trying to think. I thought she said that it's pretty much going to be like cumulative, and is also something that's generally just good to know. And there's also so many different ways to do it. So, I mean, again, it depends on what you're trying to do exactly.
So basically, it doesn't hurt to study it.
Yeah, I would say it would be nice. It would be good to, because you should be able to use it right now, or at the very least, like, be pretty close to using it correctly, like without even really thinking about it, because it should be something. Because you had what 2-3 assignments that used it, at least.
Well, I think it was only assignment 7 or the one before that, but could be wrong.
Like, do you have a specific example?
No, I was just curious whether that was something to study, for the test.
All right. Let me see. Someone asked about page of notes. Yes. And then I'll look on Blackboard really fast. Alright. So, link.
Somebody has a question on YouTube also.
Alright, I'll look at that too. Sorry, let me just do that real quick. Okay, so YouTube. Over 13. Selection sort and insertion sort. Is that 13? Because I know the numbers on the page that I have.
13 is
Or is that
circling the right class names.
Alright.
Or sorry, valid method headings.
Alright. Let me pull up the actual solution one just so I don't say something incorrectly. Because sometimes they're intentionally like really tricky. And I'd rather just give you the right information. Alright. Okay. Oh wait, that was the right. So it says please circle the valid method headings, assume they are written in a class named some class. Class named some class. Okay. So public void void. Would that be a correct method heading? And the answer would be yes, because I don't think void is a, it's, the capital V is not a, keyword. So that's why that one would be like, okay, so public void, which is acceptable for anything. The questionable part would be this, but that's just a identifier name. It's not the Java convention to use a capital for a method name, but it is still a valid. And you don't have to have parameters, so that should be fine as well. Public double void F2 with no parameters is not, because you either have something that's double, returns double and is void, which doesn't make sense, or you're trying to use void as a assignment or as a variable name. or method name. So that's why that one's not correct. Public sum double int left comma right is not correct because right doesn't have a variable type or a type. So it should be int or string or something for that to be correct. Public capital string is acceptable because, again, string is a keyword if it's capital S, but lowercase is fine, and it can take the parameter, any parameter it wants, because it's a method, as long as it's a valid parameter. And in this case, bank account, since it's bank account, and they have a difference because they're capitalized, it's assumed that this is a class name or a type. Even if it wasn't capitalized, if it was the other way around, it wouldn't be the convention, correct to Java conventions or programming conventions, but it would still be a valid method name. So hopefully that helps. Unless that person had specific questions for why that's. So if Eric had any other questions for that. Alright. So, discussion board. Sorry about the quality for the stream. The program I downloaded is a free program, and it only lets you get certain quality without having to pay for it, and I don't have a ton of money, obviously. So,
Derek, could you go over or at least explain the enhanced for loop? Like, what does it read when you actually, if you're reading an enhanced for loop, what does it mean? Does that make sense?
not really. Can you give me an example?
Like, some example of for loop. It's in the it was in the book a lot, the textbook.
Which
But it'll be like element colon.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, and honestly, that loop is newer to Java. Parsent. Hold on a second. Okay. That's newer to Java. Before, the only way you could do for loops was how the typical way to do for loops is. And I haven't had a ton, I haven't used it. Basically, they're equivalent to a regular for loop. And I haven't had a lot of practice writing them. I've written them in Python a lot, but let's see. It should be something like for, if I have, well, let's use something I already have. Let's use our int array y or z equals. So if you already have like an array that has, let's say it's 0, we don't really care what the elements are, 1, 45, 7, that. So it already has a set number of elements. You could do for e in z, I think. Or do you have to use elements? Or int elements? Is it a semicolon z? I might have to look this up because, again, I can do it in Python.
I think the incrementation is assumed,
Yeah, it
like the plus part.
yeah, it does that part automatically. because it already knows how many elements are. Oh, it's just semicolon string element array. An array string elements. Okay, so it would be like this. There you go. So, and this can be whatever it is. So, yeah. So, basically, this works for any time you have like an array or something that is fixed size. So, since z is an int, it could be like this. You could also change this to strings or whatever it is, and you can basically, this will go through every single element. That's why element's usually used. That is in the array, and then so inside your for loop you could just do like system.out print line or print el. Oops. Okay, so you could just do something like that, and
So how do you read that? So it's like for int e1.
so for me it's easier to do for every el that is in z, do this.
Oh, okay.
And it's exactly equivalent to writing it the other way. The only difference is you don't have to you don't have as much control, and you can't do it for things that aren't set sizes. And again, it is a newer thing in Java, and I haven't, like, when I go to write a for loop, I rarely ever even think to write it like this while I'm in Java. In Python, it's very nice because there's a lot of things that you do are lists or collections that it's handy to be able to search every element of, because it also returns, because el is the element that is this, whatever the array type is. So like if this was strings, this could be strings. So you don't have, instead of having like the normal I, where I is an index of something, this could be a string element if this was a string. So it's the same type as whatever is in the actual array. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
The statement int.parseInt or in.parseInt, that's part of the, I think it's the file, or it's either the buffer reader or the file reader class. And you could look it up in the Java API. Actually, that might be a good idea to do anyway. But pretty much what it does is it looks for an int inside of a string. So when it goes to read the actual file, so you've got your in, which is your buffer reader, or it's like a scanner, but it's not the regular scanner. Java API. And then specifically looking for the parseInt, right? ParseInt, yeah. Okay, so there should be a search. Make this smaller. I'll just do it this way. Okay, so the parseInt. So it passes the string argument, whatever's there, and makes it an unsigned decimal, or a signed decimal, which you don't really need to know that's a signed decimal integer. It just returns an int based on the string. So if you typed in like int, let's do xy for some reason equals this string, which is 255. It gives you an error because it's not an integer. You should be able to do parse. How would you use it? You have to use it as a parse int, and I have to have the actual java.lang.integer. So import java.lang.integer. See if it likes that. Again, it's something that I haven't used a ton of lately. And it might have to be off a string. You might have to do it off an input, or like already have the string already existing to use it. So string equals that, and then that equals 0, and then xy equals yeah, I think you have to do it off like a scanner in order to do it. The scanner or the input stream from one
You
instant.
put integer dot parseInt, then I think the string is the argument.
Parse and okay, yeah, that works too. Or that works, yeah. Thank you. And then just do C1. There you go. So yeah. So and how you were, or how the question was asking, it was doing an in dot parseInt. ParseInt does. So basically, you take whatever is in, which is almost always either the scanner input or the file input, and it looks for the next integer, or it tries to make that an integer. So hopefully that helps. Any more questions here? Next answering question, could you also go over number 10? And number 10 really fast is code from question 9. How many copies of the variable number exists after one instance? That is one, right? One instance. Or after I instance. Okay, so actually, so if you create, so that's like the equivalent of saying amazing class AC3 equals new blah blah blah, AC4 equals all the way up to 374, and because it's asking for how many copies of the variable number, and because number is static, there's only going to be one copy. They're all going to share the same copy of that. So when you create, like, no matter how she has, you can create squares for each instance of a class. So like AC1 would be here, and then AC2, AC3, but instead of the int number being inside the box, int number's up here in its own memory location, and they all point to that as their own number. So that's why when you create this, number is equal to 3, but when you do this one, number for every instance of the class now equals 7. and every time you create a new one or do something that modifies, like this modifies this number, every time that this is modified, it's modified for all the classes because it's static. So the answer is 1 because it's static. So if you, no matter how many of these you create, it's always going to share the same object or the same variable. Any last minute questions?
What's the syntax for copying an array? Not just not just pointing to the memory location, but actually copying all the elements. When you use the arrays.copyOf, is it what goes in the argument? The argument is just the first array.
I don't know if I've actually used that ever before. Because whenever I copy an array, if I copy every element, I always just do a for loop or a for loop depending. I've never actually used that method, sorry. But you should be able to do the same exact thing. I just don't know which one switch.
Okay.
Because you should be able to do.
I just wasn't sure if you had to use the new keyword or not, because it's like, let's say you're pointing to, or you're going to copy that array X or whatever that you had. I think it's like your new array equals arrays dot copy of, and then the argument your old array. But I'm not sure if there's like something else you have to put in there, like the new keyword.
Is it array or arrays? Arrays.
Arrays. Dot copy of.
To import. That's already imported. Dot. Copy of. You shouldn't have to do. Just from knowing Java, or how Java works, you shouldn't have to do a new because you're copying an existing. So like do copy of, right?
Yeah, it's copy of, and I think in the arguments the old array.
So copy of, looking for, let's do integer array.
Yeah, I think it's right there. I think second from the bottom of your list. Or yeah, like original.
Don't look at that one. Well, I mean that's using T's and U's.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about those ones that are. Yeah. You're looking for. It's going to be pretty much like this. So it's going to be like int array original, whatever the original is, and then the integer new length. So you have the option of making it bigger. So you should be able to do, let's see if it lets me click on one of these. No, it doesn't. Okay, so say we do, I decided Z is an array. Yeah. So the Z is an array, comma, and then int new length. So the new length would be like z.length.
Well, okay.
Let's see if that.
If you wanted to like grow the array or something like that, you can throw that into a loop and just put like z.length times 2 or something, just to grow the length every time.
Yeah. Well, I don't so much think of it as a grow because it's completing or making a completely new array. Right. And again, for this level, the resources don't really matter as much, but you'll get into the point where I think discrete math you'll learn a little bit, but 205 you should, and a lot more so in 310. They do a lot of like how much resources cost for doing sorts and lists, array, like copying arrays and Y arrays are really, really helpful, but really, really bad. So yeah, but you shouldn't do a new one, because this is it's like when you're using other objects, and you don't have to use new, even though it's the first time you declare it, if you're already doing something that's a valid object, and this returns a valid. It is a valid object. An arrays are objects. It returns a valid value that is correct for this Y, so it's complete and all that stuff. So, any other questions? Check YouTube one more time. You're welcome. Sorry this wasn't planned out as well as I thought it was. I had issues setting things up, so, and I guess the YouTube was really bad. Was it just bad when I tried to zoom in on my code? Like,
It was bad the whole time.
okay. So, yeah. Alright, well, I hope it was at least beneficial to those of you that were on Hangouts. So, alright, so if there's no more last minute questions, I'm gonna sign off. Alright. Alright, good luck on tomorrow's test.
I'm so hot.
Sorry.